possession of their creator. God calls Israel his treasured possession.
In the story of the Bible, humanity becomes the possession of something else. This is illustrated in the Exodus story, where Israel wrongfully becomes the possession to Egypt as slaves. But the Bible takes this idea further and thinks about how all of humanity has become slaves to some other ruler called sin and death. And so the act of bringing people back to where they belong, that's what the Bible calls a redemption. And this word is not simply an interesting way to think about the story of the Bible. This word gets to the heart of how Jesus saw himself as a redeemer.
Whatever this word means, we're at the heart of understanding why Jesus died, about how his death and resurrection are somehow beneficial to other people. We're talking about why the language of debt and payment and redeeming or purchasing is a part of how Christians talk about Jesus' life, death, and resurrection.
Today, we begin a theme study on the concept of redemption in the story of the Bible. Thanks for joining us. Here we go.
Hey, Tim. Hello, John Collins.
Hello, Tim Mackey.
Yeah.
We're using surnames.
Why not? Why not?
Hey, we're starting a new theme study.
We are. These are good days.
Yeah,
I like these days. We are in a season of creating content inspired by the Exodus scroll.
Yeah. And in the Exodus scroll, there is a key word.
Yes, introduced. Once it's introduced, it is central to the ideas that are the heartbeat of the biblical story. And that is the word redemption.
Yeah.
Redemption. Or that's a noun, and then the verb is redeem.
Redeem.
And it's core to understanding the whole story, but it doesn't appear everywhere. And so in the main place where redemption first appears and where it gets its basic definitions is in the story of the liberation of the Israelites from their slavery in Egypt.
Okay.
Redemption. Yeah, pretty classic religious word.
Yeah, you know what makes a real good classic religious word? Is where it has so much religious meaning, but you don't otherwise use it.
You don't use the word.
I don't. Yeah, in normal everyday language.
Even the verb, redeem?
Redeem. Gosh.
No context where you'd use redeem.
There is a context. Like I'll redeem a token, or I can redeem
Coupon?
the store. I don't think I ever say I redeem a coupon. I go use a coupon.
You use the coupon.
But if I'm in an arcade, right? You bring your kids to an arcade and they get the tickets.
Redeem the tickets.
And you redeem the tickets for like prizes. I think I would use redeem there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so we have by our house in Southeast Portland is one of Portland's oldest classic video arcades. Yeah, it's called Avalon. The building's 100 years old, and it smells and feels like it when you go inside. And they have accumulated this collection of, it's like 3 big rooms. It's actually, now when I go with my kids, which I've really limited how often they can go.
They love going.
They love going. But you go into these dark rooms. It's like a kid's version of a casino.
Yeah.
There's no windows. There's no external light.
Yeah.
It's dark, and the only light there is purple and blue and green and red from the games. And it's just a cacophony of noise. And it's, for me, it's oppressive.
And then you spend $20 and you end up with like 200 tickets.
Exactly. But many of the games, some of the classic ones, like skee ball and the basketball hoop, either prints out tickets or now it all happens on these little cards, digital cards.
Tickets.
And if you get tickets, then they'll accumulate on your card. And so then at the end of the ritual, it's like a liturgy.
Yeah.
Is
How many Tootsie Rolls can I get?
go into the and then they stand there, and these poor workers
I know.
at the arcade,
Yeah.
God bless them, just these indecisive, wishy-washy 10-year-olds being like, do I want the mint Tootsie Roll or the blueberry or the chocolate, and they're so patient. So what they're doing in that moment is that my kids have played these games and they've earned this value.
Yeah.
They've generated value, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
In the economy of the arcade, they've generated value by winning these games. And then they can take that value and then go look at a glass case with like cheap plastic laser guns or Tootsie Rolls. And what they do is they lay a claim to that. They've accumulated value, and they see something else of value, and they're like, I want that to be mine. And then you
Exchange.
the exchange.
I'm exchanging my tickets for the laser gun.
That's it. Yeah.
But you need like 2,000 tickets for the laser gun. You're not going to get that one.
It's so ridiculous. You actually pay $30 for a cheap toy laser gun that breaks in a week. Anyway, so it's that exchange of value.
An exchange of value.
Yeah. There's something that I'm going to lay claim to, and that will be mine. And then I go through some process of transferring it into my possession. And that whole process is, I think, what the word redemption and or redeem classically means in English.
Okay. Is that the main meaning of the word that we're translating from Hebrew or Greek?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about for the next 10 hours. It's really fascinating. But the core idea is transferring possession from one to another. I go lay claim to something and make it my own possession.
You're using that phrase, it's an important phrase. You lay claim to something.
Lay claim to, yeah.
That's
or
meaning
take possession of. Maybe that's a little, maybe lay claim to.
It makes me feel like settlers or something.
Okay,
claim this land.
Take possession of. To mark and take as one's possession.
When else would you do this? Mark something to take possession of it.
In a way, you do it every time you go grocery shopping, right? There's like an aisle.
As soon as you take it off the shelf, put it in your cart, you're taking claim to it.
Yeah.
But you have not yet redeemed it.
Here's the thing, somebody else owns that.
While it's in your cart.
But I'm walking around with it in my cart as if it's mine.
So when it's in your cart, you've laid a claim to it.
You lay claim to it, and then when I go to the checkout counter, I redeem the gallon of milk.
So we just say purchase.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay.
And interestingly, purchase is a synonym of redeem in biblical thought. You buy it.
You buy it.
You buy it.
Okay.
So at the heart of this is a transfer of possession. It belonged to another.
Yeah.
Now I make it belong to me. I
Belong to Kroger.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And I'm going to make it now belong to me. And that transfer of possession often happens through an exchange of value, something valuable. So that process can be called buying, purchasing, redeeming, less often ransom. The idea of ransom in English means somebody took possession of something that's mine and it was not legitimate.
Okay.
They stole it. Or it's wrongfully in the possession of somebody.
Okay.
Like theft. Yeah. So I think we still have the phrase ransom to refer to when somebody
A hostage situation.
A hostage situation. Yeah.
And they demand, if you want this person back, give me $1 million.
Yeah.
That's a ransom.
So someone has taken possession of another and it's wrong. Like it's illegitimate.
Okay. So when you pay the price to purchase something that person illegitimately has, you can use the word ransom.
Yep, the word ransom refers to that. Okay, so we have a network of words. Buy, to purchase, redeem, or ransom.
Oh boy.
And they all have a little bit different of a nuance
Okay.
in English.
Yep.
And there is a corresponding set of words in biblical thought that are rendered into two languages in the Bible, two main languages. So there's a network of words, two main words that refer to this set of ideas.
Okay.
And then there's one main word network in the Greek New Testament.
2 words in Hebrew,
One in Greek.
1 word in Greek.
Well, multiple words in Greek, but they come from one root. So maybe there's 2 root words in Hebrew and there's 1 root word in English in the Greek New Testament. So what I want to do is put in front of us just a short list of really important, I'm going to call them load-bearing passages from the New Testament that have this word at the center of them.
Okay. Load-bearing, you're using an architectural metaphor.
Yeah. These are passages that once we read them, probably you will be familiar with them, having grown up John Collins in a
Bible using household.
Yeah. Or home. Yep. And the question will be, it's like, oh, I know it, but actually
What does it mean?
Okay. So first, let's do a little sampling of redemption language in important passages in the New Testament. In the Gospel according to Mark, chapter 10, there's a moment when 2 of Jesus' disciples, 2 of the 12, Jacob and Yochanan, in English, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, the fishermen, come up to Jesus and they say, Jesus, we want you to do for us whatever we ask you.
Yeah, I've had my kids do that. Can you just say yes to what I'm about to ask you?
Yeah. So Jesus said, what is it that you want me to do? And they said, could you grant to us that when you sit in your glory, that is, in your messianic, glorious kingdom, that we could sit, one of us at your right hand and one of that at your left? And he's just like, well, I guess.
We want to reign with you. We want the power.
We want the power and the glory. Power and the glory. And Jesus knows that the power and the glory is going to come through suffering and death and torture. And so he says, you don't know what you're asking for. So he goes on this thing, and they're like, yeah, we do. Really, we do. And then, verse 41, when the other disciples heard this, they were really angry at James and John. It's like, what are you trying to, get a leg up on us? Like, what is this? And Jesus called him to himself, and he said, you know that those who think they rule, who are considered the rulers among the nations, they love to dominate over people. to act like a lord over them.
Yeah, they love the power. They love to show their power.
Mm-hmm. And people in high positions, they love to exercise authority.
Feels good to tell people what to do.
Because it's true, in a way.
Yeah.
He says, it is not supposed to be that way among y'all. And by that he means in the kingdom of God community that is his disciples. Rather, whoever wants to become the great one among you must become your servant. And whoever wants to be the first among you must become the slave of all. For even the Son of Man, and here he's echoing Daniel 7, which is all about a human figure who's exalted to divine,
Sits at God's right hand.
sits to rule in glory
Yeah.
on a throne, which is exactly what James and John answered.
Yeah.
So that's kind of wrapping back around to your request. So even the one who's going to share the divine throne with the Father didn't come to be served, but to be a servant and to give his life as a ransom for many.
Ransom.
And what's interesting, in the English translation tradition of Mark 10, verse 45, that phrase ransom is pretty fixed. Going back to the King James, that's where ransom for many, but the New American Standard, English Standard, NIV, NRSV, all do ransom for many.
This is the name of the character in C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy.
Yeah, ransom. Such a good story.
It's a cool name.
Yeah. So, again, just taking our conversation beforehand, we use redeem in like some narrow context of like redeeming a coupon or a token.
Right.
We use ransom in contemporary English, at least you and I do, to talk about freeing a hostage.
Yeah.
So the question is, what's supposed to come into my mind here? Because this is saying the Son, the incarnate God become human, who will suffer and die and then be exalted to rule in glory and share the divine throne. That one will give his life for many. So there's our substitution idea there. And the word then used gets translated as ransom. It's the Greek word lutron. And this is our key word in the Greek New Testament. Lutron. It's a compound word made of two parts. Lu comes from luo, which means to release.
Oh, yeah.
And then tron is a common compound part of a word you stick on to a verbal root to indicate the means or the instrument, the thing by which you do the verb. So a lutron is the means of releasing.
Luo
Means to release. Tron is a Greek affix meaning that marking the thing by which you do the verb.
the thing by which the release can happen.
Yeah, the means of release, the instrument of release, the thing by which you release someone.
Okay.
There's some way or thing that affects somebody's release.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's the meaning of this word in terms of its like parts. So what does it mean that someone gives their life
as the thing in which creates a release.
Release for many.
And what is the release?
Mm-hmm. Release from what?
Yeah, release from what?
Or from whose possession? And into whose possession? Right? Because remember, this is all about possession. So when I go to the grocery store, I want to possess the gallon of milk. But right now, the grocery store possesses it. So I give a means of release in the form of money.
Currency.
For it to be released from their
So
possession.
in that situation, the money is the lutron.
It's the lutron. That's right. Okay. Yep, that's right. Now, this whole passage is packed with hyperlinks and language taken from the Suffering Servant poem in the book of Isaiah about a servant who serves, who gives his life for many. Except in Isaiah 53, the servant gives his life for the sins of the many. And here, in Mark 10, it's the Son of Man gives his life as a lutron for the many. So somehow, this network of ideas is that Israel has sinned, they've failed in some significant way, and that has brought them into possession of some other. And
Some sort of slavery that they're experiencing.
At least being possessed, which is the essence of slavery, being the property of another. And it's wrongful ownership. And so the God of Israel sends or appoints the servant to release the many. And the servant does so by dying, giving his life. Anyway, so that seems like a fairly important passage. This is, other than the Last Supper, this is the one place where Jesus focuses on and explains the meaning of his coming death. He actually doesn't give lectures on the meaning of his death.
I've thought about this a number of times because that's what we care about, right? And like
by modern Christianity, that's right, and it is important.
It's very important,
super important,
and it's just more interesting than in the Gospels.
It
isn't.
Jesus
talks about more.
But he talks about it here, and this is the language that he uses. Another important passage, say in Paul's letter to the Romans. Right? That's an important part of the Bible. The end of Romans chapter 3. Verse 23, everyone has sinned and has failed to attain the glory of God. A common translation has fallen short.
Yeah.
But what that means is if you fall short of something, it means you didn't get there.
Yeah. Which is also kind of the idea of sin, right? Is this,
Yeah, you missed the mark.
missed the mark.
Yeah.
The moral
Yeah.
missing.
Everyone has fallen short of the glorious image of God ruling over creation and love and wisdom, purpose for which we are made.
Yeah.
That's my paraphrase. So we've all fallen short of that. But here's the great surprise. Everyone has been declared righteous as a free gift by God's grace through the redemption that came through the Messiah, Jesus. And here Paul uses the root word, our word lutron, but he's added another affix to it, so it's apolutroseos.
Lutron, there's an apo before it.
Yep, there's an apo, which is a preposition, away from.
Okay.
And then lutroseos, which is referring less to the means of redemption and more to the act of the release.
Okay.
So to be released away from, the liberating away from, or the freeing from. So once again, the connection of sin and failure lands humans in a bad situation. But God has provided through Messiah Jesus a liberation out of, a redemption out of. And what's the good thing that you're redeemed into? A standing of being declared as being right with God, offered as a free gift. So there's a little story. Paul has some story in his mind about how what Jesus did affected a redemption of people who were in the possession of some other. Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews is depicting Jesus as a high priest who is going into not the temple in Jerusalem, and certainly not the tabernacle, Israel's tabernacle in the wilderness. But Hebrews does present Jesus as like a priest.
Okay. Because a priest will, when you say goes into a temple or tabernacle, their purpose is to go on behalf
As a representative.
Everyone else who can't go in, doesn't have access. And on behalf of the people, present some sort of offering.
Of ultimate value.
Of value.
Of value. The greatest value.
The greatest value.
That sacrifices and offerings are a symbol of surrendering something of utmost value to God, which in a farming community is your animals.
Or your produce.
Or your produce, that's right. And so Hebrews describes Jesus in his resurrection and ascension as entering the most holy place once for all by his own blood.
Holy place referring to the inner sanctum of the tabernacle.
He's using, the phrase used to describe the innermost sacred space where God lives in the tabernacle, but he's using that phrase to describe where Jesus ascended to after his resurrection. And he entered in there by his own blood. He's referring to how the high priest of Israel would come with the lifeblood of a blameless animal and offer that before God to represent the non-blameless people outside the tent.
Okay. So the blood in the animal ritual is the currency?
Is the thing of value.
It's the thing of value.
Because it's the life. Life is of ultimate value in the story of the Bible. And when he entered by his own blood with that thing of value, he obtained eternal redemption. There's our word again. Lutrosis. So it's not referring to the means of redemption, it's referring to the fact of redemption. And notice he calls it eternal. Once and for all.
Okay.
So whatever this word means, we're at the heart of understanding why Jesus died, about how his death and resurrection are somehow beneficial to other people. We're talking about why the language of debt and payment and redeeming or purchasing is a part of how Christians talk about Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Why do we use economic words, money words, to talk about the death and resurrection of a human? When you're in a Christian community, it just becomes so common. But to really stop and think about that, why are we talking that way? It comes from the Bible. But what does it really mean in the story of the Bible? This has become a long introduction to why I think this series is important and why I have learned so much in studying to prep for this. It's brought a lot of clarity to what I could see were foggy or blurry areas in my own thinking about the meaning of Jesus' death and resurrection.
So you're saying central to how biblical authors think about the meaning of Jesus' death is this embedded metaphor of purchasing something, exchanging value in order to possess something.
The transfer of possession. And the means or the thing that facilitates the transfer of possession is something of value.
And that metaphor is embedded in an ancient Near Eastern marketplace reality where there was animal sacrifices. And so we are going to have to kind of enter into that ancient context mentally.
Yeah.
But then the question becomes, why has that become this predominant metaphor to talk about what Jesus did?
Yeah.
And I think one way that helps that land for me is to think, let's say there was a natural disaster. They've talked about this happening in Portland.
The big one.
The big one.
Yeah.
The earthquake.
Yeah.
And then floods, and just everything's collapsed.
Yeah.
And now we're just like, it's a mess. Like, there's not enough food, there's not enough shelter, there's just chaos. And if then the government, I suppose, came in and saved us from that situation, we wouldn't call that a purchase.
Yeah, or redemption.
Or redemption. It would just be an act of rescue. When a firefighter comes into a house and like takes a person out.
That's right. Okay, yeah, let's use that example. I think that'll really help us. So you have somebody trapped in a room and the house is on fire.
Okay, simply.
The firefighter comes in, like chops down the door with an axe.
Yeah.
A beam collapses. Firefighter's holding up the beam and is like, run, go. And the person's like, no, you have to come. And they're like, no, it'll collapse. Like, go, you run. The person runs out of the house and then it collapses. The firefighter dies.
Okay.
So there, one has given their life for another.
Yeah.
But we don't use economic language.
We wouldn't use economic language.
We would just say he laid down his life.
Yeah. You could even say sacrifice.
Sacrificed their life. That's right.
But yeah, you wouldn't use an economic
We
language.
wouldn't say the firefighter purchased their life or ransomed them.
Yeah.
That's language we use for when we buy things.
Yeah.
We would say they rescued them.
They rescued them.
So there's some merging in...
Or saved them, and that's also a biblical word.
Exactly. Yeah. So saving is about rescuing from danger.
Yeah.
Ransoming or redeeming is about purchasing from possession. And what's happening by applying the language of redemption to this rescue story is we're merging two metaphorical schemes, two story worlds, and turning them into one.
Yeah.
And that is what Jesus is doing
Okay.
when he says the Son of Man came to give his life as a ransom for many, for their sins. So how did those two story worlds become merged? What does it mean to merge them? And is it possible that within the biblical story itself, there actually is a way to understand it? Because in our minds, they're separate.
Okay.
Even though we use the merged language all the time
Yeah.
in our language and songs and liturgy about Jesus. So we're trying to tease them apart.
Okay. There's a difference between rescuing someone, which that word often translates salvation,
Save. Yeah.
and redeeming someone.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
There's a difference. But for good reason, they've become merged.
In the
And
way
how
we talk about what
Christians-
Jesus did
That's right.
for us.
That's right. And so I think it's helpful just to tease them apart,
Okay.
think about them separately, not to keep them apart, so we can put them back together again, and really, I think, appreciate the beauty and the power of this language in the Bible, both to appreciate what Jesus did, but also to appreciate what it means for me to be connected to the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. So that was a long setup. We've talked about the lutron word in the New Testament. Let's spend the rest of our time in this part of the conversation talking about the Hebrew words that are underneath this Greek word. So Jesus and the apostles were raised on their scriptures, the Torah and prophets and writings, and they encountered them most likely in a bilingual form of their original language in Hebrew, but also hundreds of years old now by the time of Jesus and the apostles was a Greek translation. Actually, multiple Greek translations were available. Those translations were called the Old Greek translations of the Hebrew Bible. That's what scholars call them today, or the Septuagint is a common way. And so what's interesting is that word lutron that Jesus and the apostles use, lutron in the Septuagint is the most common Greek word that Greek-speaking Jews used to translate two Hebrew words.
Oh, double duty.
Double duty. So there's two Hebrew words, and underneath the one word lutron in biblical vocabulary. And those two words are, one is Gaal, and the other is Pada. Let's talk about Gaal first.
All right.
Okay.
Good. These are two new words for me.
Yeah. New territory.
Here we go.
So Gaal means to, this is so foreign. Maybe. I don't know. So the word Gaal is introduced in the Exodus story. That's where it appears for its first times. And in a well-known speech from God to Moses about the liberation of Israel. This is in Exodus chapter 6. God says to Moses, I have heard the groaning of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians are making to work, but I have remembered my covenant, that is my promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So say to the Israelites, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you out from under the forced labor of Egypt. I will make you go out, bring you out. I will snatch you from out of their slavery. It's the word to like seize. Take hold of you. I will ga'al you with an outstretched arm and with great acts of justice. And I will take you as my people, and I will be your God.
Okay, so this is interesting. I have no idea what this word means.
Yeah.
But it's in this sequence of, I'm going to release you from slavery. I'm going to grab you out of slavery. I'm going to take you. So I would imagine it's a synonym to grab, take, seize.
Exactly. Yeah. A transfer of possession belong to me, so I give them something of value. In this story, Egypt thinks that Israel belongs to it as slaves, right?
Yeah, functionally they do.
And they do, but it's wrongful possession.
Okay.
Like they wrongfully and oppressively, unjustly.
But practically are possessed.
That's right. So God is taking Israel out of the possession of Egypt.
And then we would just call it a rescue.
But we would call that a rescue. But this word, ga'al, is used, and it gets translated redeem, making you think that God's buying Israel. It's really interesting. But we're like, God doesn't owe Pharaoh anything.
Sure.
It's not like he's paying Pharaoh. There's no story of God paying Pharaoh. The point is redeem, as an English translation, kind of muddies the waters here. So at its root, ga'al refers to when a family member comes to help another family member out of a dire situation, often debt or debt slavery to another. But it can refer to any situations of danger or just bad circumstances.
Say that again. Ga'al is a word of family member.
Ga'al is a word that comes from traditional family practice. You would even call it family law, like almost like a legal term. Okay. Let's say I have a cousin, and that my aunt and uncle died.
Okay. Orphaned cousin.
An orphaned cousin. And there's no other aunts or uncles, there's no other relatives. Maybe the aunt and uncle didn't write anything into their will or whatever. And they're 12 years old. Okay. In our cultural setting.
So they're
next of kin.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Actually, we do have categories for this. And it would be not only just morally the right thing to do.
Yeah, but it's also practical.
But we also have the sense that there's an obligation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, an obligation.
First, for family members to take responsibility.
Yes.
To take possession of. To take that family member into their care or possession. That's what ga'al means.
Oh, okay. It's the obligation of next of kin to take care of their family.
Yep. Specifically by taking them into their responsibility, care, possession.
Sure.
Yep. That's what ga'al means. In the story of Ruth, we'll do a whole conversation on the story of Ruth. This is what Boaz, the character of Boaz in the book of Ruth, he's a landowner, he's a farmer, but he's single, he's not married. And he has a relative who's a widow. And then her daughter-in-law, Ruth, is also widowed, and they're destitute, and they're just like hanging on for dear life to survive. And so what he does is he buys the land the family owned that used to belong to this widow and her deceased husband, and he also marries the young daughter-in-law, Ruth. And that whole process is called ga'al in the book of Ruth. He is actually called the goel, which gets translated kinsman redeemer.
And there's that word kin.
Yeah, in the King James, kinsman. So through an act of marriage and buying land, he ga'als this family from death.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, it's productive land and a productive family, and they begin to have children. And out of that family comes the lineage of King David.
So ga'al is more about the obligation of a family member, less about whether there's currency involved or purchasing involved.
Exactly. It's about the act of a family member rescuing another family member out of a really bad situation, usually financial ruin, but also life ruin in general. So that's what ga'al means. So that's the word used to describe what Yahweh does for Israel. And so this language of, I will take you to be my people and I will be your God, that's language that we also know from the Song of Songs. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. You will be my people, and I will be your God. It's marriage, family language. So I will ga'al you, and I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. It's family language. Yeah, it's a rad word.
And in Greek, they translate that with lutron?
Lutron. Yeah, Greek just didn't really have
a word. We don't really have a word.
A distinct word for the family redemption.
Yeah.
So this is a wonderful example of how when you're doing word studies, the most important thing is the idea, which you look at by studying word in many contexts. And the words are vehicles of ideas. And ideas are shaped by anyway. So here's what's really interesting is that there is another word. There's one more word. Remember, there's two in Hebrew. The second word is padah. Padah is very similar to lutron. It's actually spot on almost for lutron. It refers primarily to releasing someone out of a bad situation, often, not always, often through an economic exchange.
Okay.
For example, in Exodus chapter 21, there's a case study law about damages and what do you do if something you own damages something somebody else owns, or how do you compensate for wrongs done in the community?
If you hit someone's car with your car, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, so in this case, if you have an ox and your ox actually attacked somebody in the past, and you know that ox is like, there's something wrong with it.
Okay. We have this with dogs.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go. That's it. Okay. And so this law is, but if the owner doesn't keep it in the pen, but he lets it wander freely on the road, still.
After it's scored someone.
After it's already hurt someone, and then it kills someone. The ox needs to be put to death, and the owner should be put to death. A life for a life.
The owner has the obligation of having not let that ox kill a neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the owner is liable for that death. That death is the owner's responsibility because he knew. He knew. Now, there's a law right before this of if an ox has never hurt anyone before and does it randomly, then the owner is still responsible, but not with his life.
Okay.
He just has to pay a large monetary fine.
Okay.
But here, now his life is forfeit. In other words, the idea is justice is life for life. He has given up, he's forfeited the possession of his own life. He doesn't possess his life anymore.
If you've taken someone else's life, you've lost the rights to your own life.
Yep.
That's the...
We're going to have a whole conversation just on that idea right there, because that's key to how this works later in the biblical story.
That's good because intuitively I kind of get it, but then in a modern intuition it feels not quite right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So let's dig into it later.
We'll get there later. However, in this law it says, but let's say the family member of the person who got killed says, we don't need another person to die in our community. Another death won't solve this.
Right.
So let's say that, but they do demand a redemption.
A padah.
Yes, he can give a redemption for his life, whatever is demanded for him.
Okay.
So here it's a symbolic amount of money. That's a symbol of...
What's your life worth, financially speaking?
Yeah, totally. So this feels strange to us.
Actually, no. Once you move into the world of, I'm not going to actually kill you, but I need to be compensated.
Yes.
Now we're squarely in how our justice system still works.
Exactly right. So here, money can be given for a life. It is a ransom. It is given as a ransom for someone.
Okay.
It's the same phrase Jesus uses to say the Son of Man gives it. It's the same concept.
Yeah, same concept.
Except here it's the Hebrew equivalent of lutron. Padah is the root, and then pidyon is the noun that comes from the root. Okay. So the question is here, clearly a payment. Something of value is given, right? To transfer possession. Padah is also used to describe what God did for Israel. In Egypt. Here's Deuteronomy 7. Because the Lord loved you, because he kept his oath that he swore to your ancestors, he brought you out of Egypt with a mighty hand, and he padad you from slavery, from the power of Pharaoh. But God didn't pay Pharaoh.
He did release.
He released
from Pharaoh's power.
Yes, he released Israel from Pharaoh's possession. He didn't do it by paying off Pharaoh.
But the word used is a word that very oftentimes is used in situations where a payment is actually used. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, sometimes a payment is used.
Sometimes or
Sometimes.
most times?
Okay. So if you go through and look at most of the uses of padah, most of them don't seem to involve a payment. For example, 2 Samuel chapter 4, David is talking to a guy named Rechab and his brother Baanah. And he's telling them stories about how God rescued him in the days of Saul. And he describes it. He says, as surely as Yahweh lives, the one who padad me out of every trouble. So David's been in a lot of trouble with other kings and battles, running from Saul. In none of those stories did God rescue David by floating a pallet of gold bricks.
Hey, kings, take this. I'm taking David.
Okay. Leave David alone because God paid them off. So here it just means to release, to free, to liberate, or to rescue.
Cool, I get it. You're using an economic term, but really as a metaphor.
The metaphor.
Because it costs something to do the rescue.
That's right. And so then it raises the question, well, what does it cost God to rescue David? What does it cost God to rescue Israel?
Right.
God is the source of all value. So he's not losing value to redeem Israel. But it is a metaphorical way to say God went over and above. He did something that was generous, that was valuable.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So that's God in the Exodus. For Jesus to say the Son of Man gives his life as a ransom He's talking about his life, which is really valuable.
Right. So when you get to Jesus, it becomes very concrete.
That's right.
But when you talk about an all-powerful creator, God, source of all value in life.
Yes, their creator, God.
Yeah.
The first event that's described with these words is the liberation of the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. And that's where these words begin life. And then, as we're going to see, the ransom, redeem, purchase gets applied to all kinds of things where God's not paying, but it does refer metaphorically to how God is rescuing or liberating.
So the word, though, then draws attention to the transfer of ownership.
Yeah, and actually, I think, and I'm open-minded here as we go, even as I've prepped, like I want to hone my understanding as we talk, because it always happens anyway. So what I want to do in the conversation that remains is go through the main way that this word works. We've looked at it in the Exodus story, but this redemption language gets used in a number of different ways throughout the Torah, first 5 books, connected to the year of Jubilee, connected to the liberation of Israelite slaves in the 7-year cycles.
Okay.
So I want to look at that because that's going to teach us about what these words mean. We're going to look at this in the book of Ruth. It's central to the book of Ruth. It's central to the book of Isaiah. God is called Redeemer more in the book of Isaiah than any other book of the Bible. We're going to look at it in the Psalms, just loaded in the Psalms, and then we'll turn to the story of Jesus and Luke, then the letters of Paul, letters of Hebrews and Peter.
Great.
Thorough tour of redemption language, the transfer of possession, the surrender of value,
And the cost.
and the cost. Yeah. So there you go. I'm excited to have these conversations. I think I know I'm going to learn a lot. I think other people can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it for today's episode. Next week, we continue exploring the theme of redemption in the story of the Bible by... We are in the second conversation about the theme of redemption in the story of the Bible. Redemption at its core is a way to talk about the transfer of possession. So if something belongs to me but is not in my possession and I take it back, that transfer, that's a redemption. Now in the Bible, you can redeem land that belongs to you. You can redeem a family member out of slavery. But the most important redemption in the Bible is a cosmic redemption. It's about how all of humanity belongs to God, but has fallen into possession to sin and death. And so, for God to snatch us from death and bring us into life, that is God redeeming us. We want to continue to explore how this idea of redemption works in the Hebrew Bible. And so we're going to look at 2 places in the Torah where the word redeem becomes a central idea. The first is in the laws of the Sabbath year, where we let the land rest and we forgive financial debts of our neighbors. Somehow, these actions are redemptions.
It's Yahweh saying, I'll let you sustain your little economic fictions about you owning land and owning each other for a little while. But remember, ultimately the land is mine. Yahweh is restoring things to rightful possession.
We'll also look at the night of Passover, a night when death comes to take what it thinks belongs to it. But on that night, God protects Israel from death by letting them paint the doorframe of their house with the blood of an innocent lamb. And this night is thought of as a redemption.
And then I do this symbol, surrender this life, and am theoretically changed by that experience.
That's all on today's episode as we continue to explore the theme of redemption. Thanks for joining us. Here we go. Hey, Tim.
Hello, John.
Hello. Let us continue in a conversation that's a theme study of sorts. However, this theme study is really rooted in a network of words.
Really, it's a focused word study.
And what is a focused word study other than an exploration of a metaphoric schema?
Well, it's a great
Fancy word.
Fancy word to open our conversation. Yes. What is a metaphorical scheme? And why is it important?
Yeah. Well, language is a way for us to try to express our understanding of the way we're experiencing the world. And if you drill down into any language, what you generally find is that that language is referring to some sort of tangible thing that you can relate to and then turn into an abstraction. So, that doesn't help at all. But what's a great example? What's a good example?
I understand that idea.
You understand.
I stand under. Okay, the word under.
That's a spatial metaphor.
Spatial, right?
Yeah,
Word.
just to be under something.
And then I stand.
Okay, so both of those are very tangible. I understand what it means to stand. I understand what it means to be under something. Now we can metaphorically talk about them as a way to then appreciate the meaning of an idea that you're standing under the idea. In which case, the idea kind of becomes a shelter of sorts that you can stand under.
That's right. Yeah. That was a good overview. of that idea.
Okay. So now I'm over the idea and I'm viewing it. Yeah. Oh, you're doing a great job.
Yeah. The point is the majority of human language, some people say all, is taking words that literally describe tactile experiences from our sensory input, touch, taste, feel, whatever, smell, and then turn them into abstractions and analogies to describe things that you can't stand under. You don't stand under an idea or overview it. Right? There you go. So metaphor is we're taking the language from one realm of human experience, and then you're applying it to help you understand some other reality. So when you're creating the bridge between two things by using words in a non-literal way, that's what metaphor means. Greek meta is across, and for means carry.
Carry across a meaning.
Carry across meaning. So what's happening with redemption, language in the Bible, is the ideas about somebody rescuing another person out of dangerous or really bad circumstances.
You can use all sorts of language to talk about that.
Yeah.
You can snatch them out of that situation.
Grab them, seize them, bring them out.
Right. You can also use a word that we've been talking about, which in Greek is lutron, and in Hebrew is pada, and it's a word used that we would say maybe purchase when you are exchanging value in order to take possession of something.
You give up something valuable to gain something valuable.
Yeah. And when you go to a grocery store and you exchange cash for the box of cereal, that's a tangible example of making a purchase.
Yeah.
As a metaphor, then, for what God did for Israel and taking them out of slavery, he's not actually giving Pharaoh.
He's not paying off
Pharaoh. But the word can be used.
But he is transferring Israel out of Pharaoh's wrongful possession into God's rightful possession.
Putting Israel into a shopping cart.
Taking
wheeling it to the cashier.
Whoa! If the cashier is Pharaoh. Isn't that funny? When we go to the grocery store, the checkout person represents
the store.
The store. They're a symbol. Whoa. They are a symbolic, they're a priest or priestess.
Whoa.
Symbolically representing Safeway or Fred Meyer, Kroger or whatever. Yeah, and you say, I'm going to give you something valuable, my money, if you give me that thing in exchange. That's how it works for us. But Yahweh, who's the creator of the store and the people and all the goods in the store, he can take the gallon of milk, walk up to the cashier and be like, this is already mine.
Yeah, I'm taking it.
This already belongs to me. You thought it belonged to you? It actually belongs to me. So I'm just going to walk out of the store right now. And you're going to watch me do it. That's essentially the Exodus. No, but God doesn't pay off Pharaoh.
Right.
Yeah.
But in telling that story, you could still say then that God purchased Israel.
Yep, that's right. And that's a regular word.
Okay.
Yep, that's right. So that's pada, to purchase, the release, or lutron in the Greek New Testament. There's also this additional word that we talked about, Gaal, in the Hebrew Bible, that is within the realm of traditional family legal tradition. I don't know quite how to describe it. What family members are obligated to do for other family members when they're in a desperate or bad situation, usually often economic, but not only. For example, we'll look at this, what Boaz, who's the Israelite farmer, what he does for some relatives of his in buying family land and marrying a distant relative. He is Gaal. He's performing an act of Gaal for that family. It gets translated as acting as a kinsman redeemer, but essentially he's bringing these family members back into safe possession of the larger family tribe.
And the focus is, though, on the family obligation.
Yep, Gaal uniquely is focusing on this as an act of within the family, restoring family possession, so to speak.
Restoring family possession.
Yeah. These widows, Ruth and Naomi, ought to be within the safe care and relational network of the family. But because of the death of their husbands and they left the land and were exiled, they're in a dangerous, precarious situation. Bring them back in. And he does that through an act of Gaal. So we'll talk about that later. But so this is the language at work. But these are the words translated as redemption or ransom in our Bibles.
Okay, there you go.
So if you just do a word search for these words, there's three main places where redemption language gets concentrated in the Torah. One is the Exodus story and references to describe God freeing Israel from Egypt. Another is about the practice of the Jubilee year. And if you get out a concordance, like redemption words go off the charts in descriptions of the Jubilee year. And then also, there's a whole network of stories about Passover and how the priests of Israel represent the firstborn of Israel who were spared on the night of Passover. And redemption language is used to describe the saving of the life of the firstborn and of the priests. I'm just highlighting 3 places that we're going to go into right now.
Okay.
I'm just trying to do an overview of where we're going.
Okay, so we're going to explore the idea of redemption, and where they show up the most is in the rescue of Israel from slavery. I understand that. The Passover night, which is also part of the rescue of Israel from slavery.
Redemption language is used there.
Redemption, hotspot. And then in the laws around what is an obscure idea for me and many people is the Jubilee year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And so actually I want to start there because it actually provided clarity that then helped me appreciate new things in the Passover stories and then appreciate new things in the Exodus story. So the year of Jubilee. The context for this is Leviticus chapter 25, near the end of the middle scroll of the Torah. So it's God speaking to Moses about social practices that the people of Israel are supposed to do once they get to the Promised Land. So they're not in the Promised Land in the story. They're at Mount Sinai in the wilderness. But when God does bring them into the Promised Land, and all of the tribes get their land inheritance, you get that hillside, and you go farm those pastures and all that. So the assumed setting is ancient Near Eastern farming communities.
That's the setting, and this is how they're supposed to live once they're in the land.
Yep, that's right. So Leviticus 25 begins with Yahweh speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, "Speak to the Israelites and say, when you all come into the land that I am going to give you, the land gets a Sabbath rest for Yahweh."
And Sabbath is a weekly ritual, right?
Yeah, every seventh day,
Every seventh day.
Israel was to stop working the land and each other and
Rest.
all forms of work.
Realize that their work isn't what's holding everything together. God is.
That's right.
And we can rest and God can provide. And you do that one day every 7 days.
That's right. You surrender one day out of 7 over to Yahweh as a symbol that acknowledges actually all time belongs to Yahweh, because Yahweh is the maker of all that is. But he's asked that every 7, which and the word 7 sounds like the word completion in Hebrew, Sava, completion, Sheva, 7. So it's a symbol, and you stop working. And that day belongs to Yahweh. That's why it says a Sabbath for Yahweh. So that day belongs to him, even though all time belongs to him. So then it just scales up. So if that's true that all time and all the land belongs to Yahweh, and I stop working the land
One day a week.
then even more, just scale it up times 10, so to speak. So now, verse 3, Leviticus 25, for 6 years you can sow your field, you can prune your vineyards, gather its yield, but in the 7th year it will be a Sabbath of total rest for the land, a Sabbath for Yahweh. Don't sow the land, don't prune your vineyards, don't reap a harvest. Just let the land be in its natural state.
Yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay, so that's the first thing.
Yeah.
When you come into the land that I'm going to give you, there's a little important assumption underneath there that the land is God's, and he is loaning it to us. And so one day out of 7, we stop working the land, and then 1 year out of 7, we don't work the land.
Yeah. That's pretty bold.
That's a bold move. Okay, so
You gotta eat that year.
then it goes even more. It goes every 7 times 7 years. You add an extra year of rest. So every 7 times 7 years, you have the 7th year, and then you get the 7th 7
The 50th year.
is then you add on an extra year to make the 50th year, which becomes then
bonus Sabbath.
the bonus Sabbath. Yeah, exactly. And that's called the year of Jubilee.
Okay. That's the Jubilee year.
Yep, it's Jubilee year. And then it goes on to describe even more what you do. Because let's say that in the course of those 50 years, one of your second cousins twice removed, he had a really bad crop, didn't rain enough, wasn't able to pay on the loans that he had taken out to get that new ox, right, and build that second storage, whatever. So he has to forfeit on these loans. He sells his land to some other tribe who lives way down the valley. They're not even a part of our clan. I mean, they're Israelites, but they're not part of our tribe. And then he has to do something that was common in ancient Near Eastern and in their economic setting, which was sell themselves into debt slavery.
Okay.
to go around saying, who will buy me?
I'll work for you.
Or who will buy my kids? And they will become that person's property. Until they, on an extra year, to make the 50th year.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Times 10. So the year of Jubilee. The context for this is Leviticus chapter 25, near the end of the middle scroll of the Torah. So it's God speaking to Moses about social practices that the people of Israel are supposed to do once they get to the Promised Land. So they're not in the Promised Land in the story. They're at Mount Sinai in the wilderness. But when God does bring them into the Promised Land, and all of the tribes get their land inheritance, you get that hillside, and you go farm those pastures and all that. So the assumed setting is ancient Near Eastern farming communities.
That's the setting, and this is how they're supposed to live once they're in the land.
Yep, that's right. So Leviticus 25 begins with Yahweh speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, "Speak to the Israelites and say, when you all come into the land that I am going to give you, the land gets a Sabbath rest for Yahweh."
And Sabbath is a weekly ritual, right?
Yeah, every seventh day,
Every seventh day.
Israel was to stop working the land and each other and
Rest.
all forms of work.
Realize that their work isn't what's holding everything together. God is.
That's right.
And we can rest and God can provide. And you do that one day every 7 days.
That's right. You surrender one day out of 7 over to Yahweh as a symbol that acknowledges actually all time belongs to Yahweh, because Yahweh is the maker of all that is. But he's asked that every 7, which and the word 7 sounds like the word completion in Hebrew, Sava, completion, Sheva, 7. So it's simple, and you stop working.
Yeah.
And that day belongs to Yahweh. That's why it says a Sabbath for Yahweh. So that day belongs to him, even though all time belongs to him. So then it just scales up. So if that's true that all time and all the land belongs to Yahweh, and I stop working the land
One day a week.
then even more, just scale it up times 10, so to speak. So now, verse 3, Leviticus 25, for 6 years you can sow your field, you can prune your vineyards, gather its yield, but in the 7th year it will be a Sabbath of total rest for the land, a Sabbath for Yahweh. Don't sow the land, don't prune your vineyards, don't reap a harvest. Just let the land be in its natural state.
Yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay? So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
When you come into the land that I'm going to give you, there's a little important assumption underneath there that the land is God's, and he is loaning it to us. And so one day out of 7, we stop working the land, and then 1 year out of, right? 7, we don't work the land.
Yeah. That's pretty bold.
That's a bold move. Okay. So
You got to eat that year.
then it goes even more. It goes every 7 times 7 years. You add an extra year of rest. So every 7 times 7 years, you have the 7th year, and then you get the 7
The 50th year.
is then you add on an extra year to make the 50th year, which becomes then
bonus Sabbath.
the bonus Sabbath. Yeah, exactly. And that's called the year of Jubilee.
Okay. That's the Jubilee year.
Yep, it's Jubilee year. And then it goes on to describe even more what you do. Because let's say that in the course of those 50 years, one of your second cousins twice removed, he had a really bad crop, didn't rain enough, wasn't able to pay on the loans that he had taken out to get that new ox, right, and build that second storage, whatever. So he has to forfeit on these loans. He sells his land to some other tribe who lives way down the valley. They're not even a part of our clan. I mean, they're Israelites, but they're not part of our tribe. And then he has to do something that was common in ancient Near Eastern and in their economic setting, which was sell themselves into debt slavery.
Okay.
To go around saying, who will buy me?
I'll work for you.
Or who will buy my kids? And they will become that person's property until they work and generate the value to pay off what they owe.
Yeah.
Or they might never be able to do that. So these are things that happen.
This was just common.
Yep, in their
real
economic
life
experience.
experience.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So what is fascinating is what the Jubilee year does. These 7-year cycles and these Jubilee cycles basically hit a full cancel reset on all that. And so every 7 years, anybody who's a debt slave is to have their debt released and they go free.
Okay.
And then every 7 times 7 year, in the year of Jubilee, any land that got transferred away from the original family to go to some other family, the land itself goes back into possession of the original owners, like from the time of when Israel first came into the land. And the language to describe that transfer of ownership of a person back to freedom or of a land back to its original owner, that's where the words redemption get used in this chapter. So I just want to show you some example. Oh, but here's the logic. So what's cool about Leviticus 25, it has, of course, 3 parts. The first part is all talking about the 7th year. Then there's a little pivot in the middle of the chapter that gives you the logic, the reason for the whole thing. And then the last third of the chapter gives you 3 case studies in sort of examples. But the logic is given in verses 23 and 24, where God says this: the land cannot be sold permanently because the land is mine. You are immigrants and temporary residents with me on the land. In all of your property's land, you have to provide redemption for the land. And redemption is referring to what happens in the 7th and the 50th years of Jubilee.
So if you own property that you bought from someone else,
because they
had to sell it.
they went bankrupt in our language. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's no other reason to sell land back then. You would not sell it.
No.
You would to go buy another piece of land or something.
Yeah.
Or to buy a boat. Go retire on a boat.
They were not speedboating on the Mediterranean.
They were not yachting.
No, people do today. But
I'm going to sell my land, buy a nice apartment in the city, and retire. The land is all you got.
The land is, So you give it to your kids, you pass it on.
The only reason you would sell your land, last resort, I can't.
Can't pay my loans, can't afford the life that whatever we're
If you own land because of that, because you bought it from someone who's in that situation, then first of all, it's actually not your land.
Yeah.
It's God's land.
And it's actually not even the land of the person you bought it off of. It's God's land.
And so remember that. And with that mindset, be prepared. Every 7th year, you're giving it back.
Well, every 7th year, that person, I'm talking about people, the person who sold themselves in debt slavery, their debts are canceled and they go free. Even if you paid off their loan and effectively bought them for 1,000 shekels, and they've only worked for you for 2 years, and they've generated 400 shekels worth of value, and in the 7th year,
you're set free.
Yeah, even though you just lost 600 shekels. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's the 7th year.
And every 49th year, same for land.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's called a redemption.
Yeah. And so that release from possession to a family to whom they did not originally belong, that release is called redemption.
So it's really more about the release and the transfer of ownership.
Yeah, there's no exchange of money. The whole point is that the original family didn't have the money to pay. So God's not paying them. There's no value given here. So like the grocery store checkout counter, there's no surrender of currency. It's just straight up freedom.
I'm just taking this. Because, look, actually, I own the whole store.
Exactly. It's Yahweh saying, listen, this whole store is mine. I'll let you sustain your little economic fictions about you owning the land and owning each other for a little while. But remember, ultimately the land is mine, and you were renting it. That's the logic underneath this. So notice possession. Yahweh is restoring things to rightful possession. So what's cool about this is underneath that line there is a little picture of an ideal, right? Because if you're restoring things to a state in the Jubilee, or the ideal is that every human image of God has the freedom to live in the land.
On their own plot of land.
On a plot of land that they're responsible for, to generate abundance and to both enjoy and then share, participate in a social network of value, but where they are not just receiving, but where they contribute. This sounds like the Garden of Eden to me. I mean, it's like the Eden ideal, really. Images of God ruling, that is having responsibility for a part of creation. So we just read about the reason for the land. The land is mine, so it shouldn't be sold permanently. Later in the chapter, when it's giving a case study about liberating somebody who's in debt slavery in the year of Jubilee, it's the same exact reason. So down in verse 39, if a fellow Israelite who is with you becomes poor and he ends up being sold to you, you shall not enslave him as a slave. He's actually not technically your slave. That's how it works in Babylon. That's how it works in Assyria. He shall be with you just like a hired worker. You don't own him like a temporary laborer. And then verse 42, because they are my servants who I brought out from the land of Egypt. The land belongs to Yahweh, and every Israelite belongs to Yahweh. And Yahweh's declaration about every Israelite is that they are free. And notice how the Exodus is appealed to here. So I already declared them who they are. They are free, and I gave them land so that they can have responsibility. And back to that Eden ideal again. So the land is God's, the people are God's.
Yeah.
So redemption is about any time a family or a person falls into a life circumstance that's a tragic loss of that ideal, and it ends up that their land or those people are owned, so to speak, by another, restoring them to the Eden ideal, to God's possession. That's called redemption in this chapter. So the process of restoring someone freedom where they can have their own responsibility to generate goodness in the land is the ideal, and redemption is about restoring someone to that place.
Help me tease this out, because I can still generate abundance on someone else's land. They're paying my wage. And I'm doing it for them.
Yeah.
So, but in some sense, that's not the ideal.
Apparently. Apparently the ideal is that everybody lives directly under God's responsibility, not responsibility mediated through another human. That's really remarkable, actually.
That is really remarkable.
Like, in the classic sense of egalitarian, a true equality where humans ruling over each other is not the ideal. And that is exactly the picture in Genesis 1 and 2. God says, let them rule. Human and living one, let them rule.
And so, we could go down the rabbit hole of like, what are the implications of that wisdom for modern context? But the point here,
For redemption.
is you're trying to say, if we want to understand this word, let's first situate ourselves in this scenario where the word is very important and key, which is humans not living in an ideal state. Namely, they're not free, and they don't have land by which they can generate their abundance without having to be ruled over by someone else.
Or in this case, owned. The whole point is debt slavery. They are right now the property of another human.
And so, in a context where that is going to inevitably happen, God has given these instructions for how to then
just reset. It's like a new creation. Just like recreate the land back to the Eden. Refresh.
So I love the word refresh, restart. Help me understand then why redeem becomes the word.
Because of the possession. When the land comes into the possession of somebody other than the one whom God gave it to as a renter. Because remember, God's the real possessor. But he will let people rent the land. And then, when the one to whom God lent the land, it ends up in the possession of yet somebody else, not ideal. It needs to be redeemed. So there, the transfer of possession is the main idea. Reclaiming something to the one originally responsible under God. That's the idea. And remember, the grounding idea was, they're not your property. If you happen to buy another Israelite out of debt slavery, and technically, in your economic setup, now they belong to you. Remember, right here, Leviticus 29:42, they are my servants. I brought that Israelite out of Egypt. So they're not technically yours, which is why they're going to get released in the 7th year.
You know, at the beginning of our first conversation, our last conversation, you were using the phrase lay claim. And I was like trying to figure out why you're using that term. We don't really use that term. But suddenly it's landed for me that if you own something, but it's ambiguous for some reason, whether you actually, who owns it, right? I was just in the airport the other day, and over the intercom, hey, we have someone lost something. And so if you lost something, come and get it. And then 2 minutes later, so we still have this thing. It's really special. It's gold, and so they're really like, please come and get it. So they're asking for someone to come and lay claim for the thing that they possess.
That's it.
Redeem would be a word there?
To redeem it.
Redeem it. But they're not going and paying for it because they own it.
They're just
So
restoring
there's no
it to
actual
rightful
exchange.
possession.
It's really about the exchange of possession.
That's right. But there may be an exchange.
Like I got to show you my
In some other situation.
Okay.
But there might be situations where there isn't currency or something surrendered of
Because in
value.
that situation in the airport, I just go and I say, that's mine, prove it. Oh yeah, it's got my initials on it.
That's right.
Okay, here it is. So there's an exchange of possession, no exchange of currency. But in another situation where someone's like, actually, I rightfully took possession of this because you sold it to me. Now, to get it back,
you have to
I
pay
got to
it.
pay for it.
So, what we lack in English is a word for, or maybe to reclaim.
Reclaim. Yeah.
Because what we're talking about is bringing it back into my possession, but I'm not surrendering something of value in exchange for it. Because it just is actually mine. It left my possession. It's not right that I don't have it anymore.
I'm going to lay claim to it. I think I get that.
Lay claim to it, reclaim. So what's challenging is that when the same word in Hebrew can refer to our idea of purchasing and our idea of reclaiming without having to purchase.
Okay.
And the Hebrew word pada and the Greek word lutron refer to just when you do that. The Hebrew word ga'al is when family does that. All these words can refer to buying, giving something of value to reclaim, or just reclaiming.
Or just like, hey, I own this.
Yeah,
take it. Take it back.
There you go. This is really helpful. This is the challenge of interpreting these words, is that sometimes something of value is surrendered, sometimes not.
Because in the Jubilee year, the logic is not any sort of
Yes.
like,
The whole point is that there isn't something of value. It's a loss. Somebody loses here.
yeah, it's a full-on reclaiming.
Full-on reclaiming.
God saying, I divvied it out this way. This is how I want it. You guys went and changed it up. I'm resetting back, and I get to do it because it's all mine.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's totally it.
Okay.
So let's come back to the Exodus story. We read this passage in our last conversation, Exodus 6, when God says to Moses, I have heard the groaning of the Israelites. The Egyptians are forcing them to work. I have remembered my covenant. So tell the Israelites, I am Yahweh. I will bring you out from the forced labor. I will snatch you out of their slavery. I will ga'al, that's the family reclaim word. I will ga'al you with an outstretched arm and great acts of justice. I will take you as my people, and I will be your God. And then you will know that I'm Yahweh, who brought you out of your slavery in Egypt. So God's not paying Pharaoh, but still redeem, purchase. Ga'al is the word used here. So we're squarely in the same type of idea as the Jubilee year. Israel has fallen into wrongful possession. And
So I feel like we've made things really clear.
great clarity on the other side. Okay. So in Exodus 12, this classic Passover. Let's start back. Exodus 1.
Tell me about Passover.
Exodus 1.
Okay, let's start back at Exodus
Pharaoh
1.
saw a fruitful, multiplying people. It's the language of the blessing from the Garden of Eden. And he says, instead of seeing it as a chance to partner,
Yeah, get in on the abundance.
like the Pharaoh did in Joseph's day,
Yeah.
he wanted to take advantage, right?
Yeah, he saw, he took.
He saw it. So that leads to him enslaving the Israelites and then enacting a decree to start killing the sons of Israel.
Because he didn't want them to get too big in
That's
population.
right. So enslave them and then slowly kill them off while extracting as much value and labor from them as we
Keeping
can.
them small enough that they can never actually like revolt against you.
That's right.
Yeah. So cruel.
It's unbelievable.
Sheesh.
I mean, it could only come from a human imagination who sees the lives of other humans as having no more value as, labor.
Well, I tried to press it, then I carried its crown. I reached out to undress it, and love let me down. Love let me down. So I tried to raise it, but the ink bled right through. Almost drove myself crazy when these words led to you. And all these useless dreams of living alone, like a dogless bone. So come let me love you. Come let me love you, and then color me in. Well, I tried to control it and cover it up. I reached out to console it, but it was never enough. never enough. So I tried to forget it, it's all part of the show. Told myself I'd regret it, but what do I know about all these useless dreams of living alone, like a dogless bone? So come let me love you. Come let me love you, and then color me in. So come let me love you. Come let me take this through the end of all these useless dreams of living, all these useless dreams, all these useless dreams of living, all these
Capoeira is a form of martial arts from Brazil, and it's infused with dance.
The front door just like we want it, just like we need it. Why can't we just like her? Who says we can't? Who says we can't? Who says we shouldn't? Who says we couldn't? Just like we love it. Why can't we just like her? Couldn't we make it? Couldn't we make it? Couldn't we make it? Just like we want it, just like we need it. Why can't we just like her? Who says we can't? Who says we can't? Who says we shouldn't? Who says we couldn't make it just like we love it? Why can't we just like a dream? It's just a dream. Well, I don't know if I'm wrong, she's only just gone. Here's to another relationship born by my excellent breed of gamete disease. I'm sure when I'm older I'll know what that means. Well, she cried when she should, she laughed when she could. Here's to the man with his face in the mud in an overcast place, just taken away from the lovers in love at the center of stage. Yeah, loving is fine if you've plenty of time. Yeah, for walking on stilts at the edge of your mind. I said loving is good if your dick's made of wood and the dick left inside only half understood. What makes her calm? What makes her stay? What makes the animal run away? Yeah. What makes him stop? What makes him stand? And what shakes the elephant out? And what makes him mine? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. No, I don't know. Yeah. Anymore. No, no, no. Ooh, yeah. Hey, 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 hey. You see, I don't know if I'm wrong. It's 'cause she's only just gone. Tell me, why is this day taking so long? I was a lover of time. When once she was mine, I was a lover indeed. I was covered in weed. And she cried when she should. She laughed when she could. Close to God is the one who's in love. I walk away 'cause I can't. Too many options may just kill a man. Loving is fine if it's not in your mind. But I've now. Too many times I said loving is good if it's not understood. But I'm the professor and I feel that I should know just what makes her calm, what makes her stay, what makes the animal run away, what makes him tick apart from his wing and the lonelier side of the jealousy stick. I don't know, I don't know. Here's to another relationship born by my excellent breed of gamete disease. Finished it off with some French wine. and cheese. La vie danse quand elle joue avec moi, et je pense que je l'aime des fois. Le silence n'ose pas dire non quand on est ensemble. Mettre les mots sur la vie danse quand elle joue avec moi, et la pluie me montre quoi. Non, non, c'est la chanson, la nuit, le vent, l'amour, le sang. D'un petit
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship so loud, I can see your heart in everything you've made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. If creation sings your praises so loud, so loud. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. the stars were made to worship so loud, if the mountains bow in reverence so loud, if the oceans roar your brightness so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes away, send it so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sound of all our praises still falls shine, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. God of salvation, you chased down my heart more than my fair pride. On the hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. When you lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you so alive, I can see your heart and everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art covered. If you gladly chose surrender, so did I can see your heart and billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them so alive, like you would again 100 billion times. But one measure could amount to your desire. You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
We wanted to be trusty and true, but feathers fell from our wings, and we've wanted to be worthy of you, but weather rained on our dream. And we can't take back what is done, what is past. So fellas, lay down your fears, 'cause we can't take back what is done, what is past. So let us start from here. We never wanted to be lusty or lewd, nor tethered to prudish strings. And we never wanted to be jealously tuned, nor withered into ugly things. And we can't take back what is done, what is past. So fellas, lay down your spears, 'cause we can't take back what is done, what is past. So let us start from here. What if all that you are is not all you desire? Then come. Come alone, come with fear, come with love, come however you are, just come. Come alone, come with friends, come with foes, come however you are, just come. Come alone, come with me, then let go. Come however you are, just come. Come alone, come so carefully close. Come however yourself. Be wrong. Come, it's already begun. Come, let yourself be wrong. Come, it's already begun. Wait for me there it will come around. But everything is now. I know everything is right now. And the loneliness is a lie. There's nothing weighs a ton. I mean, nothing weighs a fucking ton. That half of the bed, empty like a page, all the cursive claims you yet to make, all the promising lines, bending like a spine, all the whiteness that your pen could write. If you get these bandages off, you can stand, you can walk. Leave these towels and gauze. You get up, you get out into the sun. That's where we belong. Been in bed too long. All our weaknesses are growing strong, and the winter always ends with water on your lips. The April rain comes swinging in. Get these bandages off. Let me stand, let me walk. Leave these towels and gauze. Let me up, let me out to the sun. Come, she will. Come, she will. Ah, come, she will. Come, she will. She will. She comes, oh, she comes, son. She comes, oh, she comes, son. She comes, oh, she comes, son. She comes, 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 oh.